today I'm going to use the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center as an example. I'm working with a customer who is looking to get further into the LCMC, and as they do, I'm giving them recommendations on how to further understand the organization, how to find people in there, et cetera. So I wanted to show you just a tip that I use to go deeper into an agency. That's it could be a single hour, single day activity, depending on how much time you want to put in, but you would be able to really understand the organization. So LCMC is the one we're going to start with. First tip I wanted to give you is just how I do my own research, right? If you can see up here on the top left-hand side, I typed in PEO Digital. That's what I was searching for. And the reason is because PEO Digital is an office or command under it's an office under LCMC. And I know they're actually the very destination we want to go. And so I typed that in, and then I also put in something that filters out all content except for that which was on airforce.mil sites. So I don't want to see something that's on randomly on some .com site. I want to see only stuff on airforce.mil site. And then the last tip I have is file type is PDF. I only want to see PDFs today. I could have said MP4s. I could have said everything, just show me. But PDFs are pretty good because I know I'm going to go right to some useful documentation. When I did this search, I'm seeing all this content come back, and I'm not going to scroll through Google. But by doing this, all I'm seeing, as you can see, are airforce.mil sourced content. And I found 3 of them I want to share with you today, and I want to talk to you about today as we go forward. So the first one is the org chart. If you have not gone in and looked at your primary agency or your target agency around business development, if you haven't looked at their org chart, then you're missing out on this huge first step of understanding, in this case, LCMC's organization, and decide who do I want to talk to, who don't I want to talk to. What I like to do is to just either electronically or on paper begin to cross out with a red line all the groups that I don't want to talk to. So an example is if I'm coming along on these subordinate offices or directorates, the armament directorate is, and you'll see this in a minute, but it's around weapons and ammunition or something. It's like, that's nowhere near my space. My space is IT, digital services, et cetera. And so that's all red line to me, and I would cross it out. And then I can go into digital service. I'm like, yes, I definitely want to go into them, business enterprise services. So I would begin to see stuff. Maybe when I get over here, I'm looking at propulsion directorate and saying, that's not me, or maybe it is. And I'll show you how I dig even further down. The second thing about a really good org chart, as you can see here, is I'm just getting instantly a bunch of names. So say, for example, here in the Business Enterprise System Directorate, I know that my customer deals with enterprise logistics systems. So here's Colonel Alvin Burse over in Gunner Air Force Base. This is a first person that I can then create a task and say, okay, let me go find out who they are, maybe get their name or their email and phone number. Let me see if they're putting any content out on anywhere on the internet that I might be able to see. Maybe they spoke at a conference and that event recorded it, or there's slides that Colonel Burse used. So I would create a task from a business development standpoint to pursue this further. I will tell you from experience, I know that I'm probably not going to get a lot of traction with Colonel Burse because he's at the very top of enterprise logistics systems. I'm assuming he has a team. And so I would either be looking for people on his team to reach out to, or I would know that when I'm going to contact Colonel Burse, I would be saying, hey, could you introduce me to your direct reports so that I could dig more in, do some homework, et cetera. Today's thing's not about teaching you how to do the business development outreach calls, but you see that just from the org chart, I instantly am finding somebody in here. And it's the same thing across the board. As I start going around and looking at anything I want to do, cybersecurity is a big one for my customer, right? So Bill Kramer, I would reach out to Bill Kramer, or I'd learn where's Bill Kramer at. Cybersecurity services, I could dig to it. Let me zoom back out here for a second. And I'm watching my time, so you'll see me keep looking down to the right. I'm watching my time just to make sure we're on track. The other thing you see is this isn't just one org chart, right? It's got a huge 3 pages of who's in here, and I can begin to learn about what's going on within LCMC. So down, like I told you, I'm whittling things out. So if I look down at this air base, I can decide as I do research, right? Not necessarily from the org chart, but if I use the org chart on my wall and I keep it there and I'm just going through, I'm like, okay, I'm not totally sure. 88th Communication Group. And sorry, I was pointing at my screen like you could see me. The 88th Communication Group, I'm looking at that going, well, it's communication and I'm in digital and cyber, maybe. Well, I could do a little research to find out, are they worth calling, not worth calling? Do they ever do work that's around my stuff? But by having the org chart up on the wall, I can put a big red X there after I researched the 88th Communication Group here and realize, okay, that's not really a fit for me. It's a different type of communication. So that's my tip there. Second tip around the org chart, right? First tip's around how to search. Second tip is how to use the org chart as a way to a stepping off point to all your business development activities within a particular agency. And this might be a good point for me to pause and say, if you want to be very good at business development, if you want to be very successful in business development, capture, or you're even just running your company, focus is the key. If you focus, then you will sit there and have success going forward. If you don't focus, you'll be distracted. And what I mean when I say don't focus, you're looking at the Air Force, the Navy, and DHS all at the same time, and you're not a billion-dollar company, right? If you're under 10 million, for example, and that goes to a company that's under 10 million, or a business developer or capture person, if that's you, and your sales goal each year is under 10 million, then you should only be looking at one agency. And when I say agency, it's kind of interchangeable with department or office. It depends on how big it is. It's really, you want to make sure it's not so big that you're never going to be able to do anything well. So in this case, my customer is looking at LCMC. LCMC, if I go to this next slide, and I'll come back to the top in a second, but LCMC is the Lifecycle Management Center. Right here, you can see in the middle. They're part of the Air Force Material Command, a major command within the Air Force. And then that major command is part of the Air Force. So when I say focus, you could focus at the Air Force level, or at AFMC, or Air Force Material Command, or the next level down, LCMC. And my argument is, if you really think that LCMC in this case is a great target customer, then that's where you spend your business development energy. You're investing heavily in there to getting to know the organization, getting to know the people, getting to know the contractors who serve it already, so that you can find teammates. Take the time to do that, and you will find that you'll quickly begin to have access to the opportunities, which is the whole point of business development, right? Is to identify opportunities. Okay, so let me come back up to the second document I wanted to point out. So the second document here is you can read it, right? It's a mission overview brief. And these documents are pretty standard throughout most of the agencies. They talk about their mission. And I've said this many times, that if you want to serve a customer, you need to make sure you're understanding, what is their mission? What do they do? If I scroll down here, there's this great line. Here it is. LCMC, right? I'm talking about my customer and going in. And when you think about this customer, you want to know this line right here. This line says, if airmen fly it, fuel it, transport it, drive it, wear it, shelter in it, communicate with it, or drop it on targets, AFLCMC provides it. And that's their elevator pitch. That's their hook. That's their tagline, right? Forget about anything else for 1 second. That is what they do. And I would submit that you almost want to know that better than your own company's mission statement. Your boss might argue, you might argue, but you want to know this one so well. At the very least, have them both memorized, right? But if this is your target customer, then get to know that, because you begin to understand it. And then you start thinking to yourself, where do I fit into that mix? And so any agency you're going after will have some similar type of document as this mission overview brief. And this one here, I think, is January 2022, right? So you can always find one within the last year. There's other documents that are similar to this, strategic plans, annual reports that you could find, but something in there that explains, what do we do? And as I come down, I want to page down if I can. So this is just showing you where does LCMC, my example agency today, where does it fit into a higher command? So that's very helpful to understand that. But then as I come down, it begins to give me some other good information. This is stuff that, if you take the time to understand it, then you will understand who you might, like which state you should be knocking on doors, which customers might be, which contractors might be serving these groups. So here they're talking about just general bit of information, right? Where are they? What percentage are spread across the country? So here, 94% of the workforce are in just 9 major locations. As you come down, you'll see the LCMC leadership chart. This is handy, and just pausing for 1 second. People are good to know if, and there's no names here, but you tie it back to the org chart, you'll have names. But what I talk about when I say business development is you want to follow agency or customer influencers. These people potentially are influencers. So this guy here who's over digital, and who knows if I'm getting it right, but I'm assuming it's this guy, Steve Wirt, right? So digital directorate, he's over digital. He's right there. I'm assuming that's the same thing. Hopefully their documents are aligned. I would go out and try to find that gentleman and follow him on LinkedIn or follow the content that's being shared out on the internet publicly and just keep track of what he's doing. And you can easily set up alerts on Google, on LinkedIn, on many different platforms that alerts you if there's anything that this guy talks about. And you can do the same thing at LCMC and et cetera. But looking in here and going, who should I follow? And so for my customer, right here, digital's a good one, and business enterprise, right? These two in particular, I would want to follow because I want to know what they're saying. They might talk about goals and objectives. They might talk about challenges. Whatever they're talking about, if I really want to do business with them, if I really want to make millions of dollars in revenue each year serving this customer, then I should be listening to what they're saying. Okay, so then coming down, next group of slides, I think all of the rest of the slides go into the same pattern of here's what we do, a brief overview of what we do. So Agile Combat Command, because my customer does agile software development, the word agile is like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. But the reality is it has nothing to do with agile software development. They're talking about being agile related to delivering support for combat needs. And so I look at that, I can see the mission, I can see the primary the primary divisions. And you know what, this is really not me. So I'm going to keep coming down. And when I do, this is when I got to the armament one. I'm like, nah, that's not me. And the same thing, going all the way down, I'll be able to see this. I'll be able to see the different programs that they have that are major programs. And all of this leads me to going back to that org chart to putting X's on the ones I don't want to go after. And what I'll end up with is PEO Digital or PEO or the BES Directorate. I'll have them, and I'll be able to then create tasks that follow on this initial research. An example is, let me find out who's working at digital. Let me begin to get names and numbers. These are all tasks that you should be writing down and accomplishing. And you do a little bit each day, and you'd be amazed at how much you begin to know about an organization. I want to pause 1 second to just tell you a story about, I had an intern that somebody asked me to train for 90 days. And I followed a 3-month process or a 3-step process of research, outreach, and capture. And the idea was to show that you could take an intern and turn them into a junior business developer within 90 days, and they will begin to follow a proven process. Within the first 60 days, so going into the second month, this person was able to not only have meetings with contracting officers, small business specialists, and even program office people on their own. They were able to find this, but I watched them go into meetings more prepared than the person they called. They would reference documents like this, for example, and the person was like, "Oh, what's that document? I haven't seen that one." And what it did was establish this relationship right away with the other person. That, forget the fact that this was a junior intern. This was a person who knew what they were talking about at a certain level, intro level, and they impressed the customer side because they came prepared. They were able to talk about their mission, what they do. There's that line, nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. They saw that this intern, right, junior business developer, cared enough to do their homework, do their research. Plus, they were able to ask the right questions going forward. And it's the reason I push on researching using these documents. Okay, so let me show you the last one. So that was the second tip. Third one I want to show you is, this is a much deeper document. And by the way, it's only 19 pages. I go into documents that are hundreds of pages long. And so I'm not talking about that today, but I just wanted to point out this third type of document, right? So I've shown you the org chart, I've shown you, and let me zoom that guy back out so it looks a little prettier. I've shown you the org chart, giving you suggestions there. I've shown you typical mission briefs or strategic document type ways of looking at it. These are documents that are created primarily for industry. They're briefing industry about what's going on. This third type of document that I'd like you to pay attention to when you're doing business development are internal documents. These documents are created, in this case, by the Air Force for the Air Force. It's okay that they're publicly shared, but their intended audience are Air Force personnel. And the reason I think they're massively valuable, two primary reasons. One is it's really important to understand what's being said inside your target customer. If you can be part of that conversation, then you're far ahead of the game than if you're just trying to respond to a RFP, but you have no awareness of that dialogue, right? The second thing is you begin to see how this organization talks about what you do in their language. And I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to try to go down and I'm going to show you a couple examples here. Before I come down, I just wanted to say two things. If you got any questions, put them in the chat. In a minute, I'm going to try to go back and look at the chat. But put it in the chat and I'll try to answer it. And the other is, if you know anybody who's doing business development who might value these tips, go ahead and tag them in the chat that just says, hey, at John Smith, check out this content. Okay, so this one here, I'm going to scroll in. I don't want to dig a lot in here, but I just told you that, right? It's a memorandum that's internal document that's going down. The reason it attracted my attention pretty much right off the basis or the base is because it's talking to digital acquisition. That's what my customer in this scenario is facing, right? They're trying to sell digital related activity. And so as I start coming down and looking at these documents, I want you to understand my goal is twofold. One is to read as much as you feel comfortable doing, reading and learning what they're talking about and absorbing it. If you read enough, the lexicon will be in your mind, right? The way they speak will be in your mind. And going with that, my second reason is to create tasks related to what I'm seeing. So as I come down, at the very beginning, I'm seeing here the execution of the digital building code, right? Let's pretend I don't know anything. Well, so now I'm going to create a quick little task. Write a note down that says, go find out where the Air Force's digital building code is. What is that? How can we use it? This is where it slides from business development, by the way, into proposal writing. One of the challenges or one of the maturity levels increases of proposal writing is going from just writing a generic response that is very good about what you do, but not customer specific, going up in several levels of maturity. But as you get to that ultimate level of maturity, your proposal seems like it was written specifically for this customer, and your customer can tell the difference. So it becomes this matter of, is it compliant or is it compelling, right? Of course, it always has to be compliant, but you can make it compelling by speaking in their language. So let me kind of keep going down. I'm looking at my time. I got about 5 minutes left here. So as I go through, I'm going to stop here for a second. I'm seeing them talk about characterizing the program's acquisition approach in 3 different ways. And by the way, the reason I stopped is because it was bold. I go down and you look for headers, you look for bold, and it's a great way to skim something to see if it pops to your attention. So here, what was exciting to me is I'm like, okay, they're categorizing their programs in conventional programs, E-programs, and E-series programs. I need to understand that. And when I go to do business development or in particular business development meetings, and I'm preparing a call plan and I'm preparing my questions, I might talk to them in these 3 languages. Hey, can you talk to me more about your conventional programs? I was looking at E-programs and they were described this way. Can you talk to me more about that? I'm having a hard time coming up with the questions right out of the gate that aren't the exact same, but basically I would ask 3 types of questions that are unique enough, but basically saying the same thing. Tell me about the conventional ones, tell me about the E programs, and tell me about the E series. It's a way to get them to talk about what they're doing that I can hear, first off, just what's important to them, but also I might hear an opportunity that is long before the RFI phase. If you've watched other videos of mine, I talk about shift left out of SAM, out of the RFI or RFP phases, over into the, hey, I got an idea, let me figure it out phase. Okay, so I'm going to keep coming down here and show you as I scroll down into this document, or I get to the table of contents, and because my customer is focused on the digital side, I'm instantly stopping, right? These three are complete buzzwords for my customer: agile software development, open system architecture, and digital engineering. These are the primary ones. What I really like, though, was this tab where it says e-program criteria scorecard. This, to me, says it's a scorecard of how the government will rate the e-programs. Well, I want to know about that, so when we're speaking to it, we're let's reverse engineering or ghosting that criteria in what we say we will do. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're writing a lot of proposals, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to come down again and I'll move pretty fast now because it's not designed to look at every page here. But you can see as I go forward, I'm looking at, okay, here's where they're talking about developing digital models of systems. And I want to see their language and what's going on. Developing digital twins, it stops me right away. My customer's doing digital twin activity over in the Marine Corps and I think one other agency. And so it stops me and I want to look at this and go, well, what are you saying to yourselves about digital twin? And so I'll read some of this and I'll go down and I'll see more that's down there. This other place, right here, you can see an ideal IDE leverages the following one. Well, if you're saying it's ideal, customer, I want to know what ideal is. So looking at this document, I'm able to see that the platforms they develop on are Cloud One, Platform One, Data One. And I realize they're not developing on Cloud 20, Platform Data 5, right? Or whatever those are all made up. But, I'm able to learn more about the specifics. I'm able to look in that they're using a Cameo system modeler and a Siemens Team Center. I'm able to look at these documents and dig into it. It allows me to do some, from a business development and capture standpoint, little research to try to find it. But if I'm weak on Siemens Team Center, now I can look at this and go, well, I should be lining up a teaming partner who's strong there. Right. And I'm not trying to be an expert here at the technology, just use it as an example. It could be the same in construction, by the way. Somebody, an agency might be talking about, hey, we're a wood only shop. Every floor is wood. Every wall is wood. There's no sheetrock. There's no linoleum. It's like, all right. But you see that in there and it helps you. As you go down, one of the things I wanted to find this other place right here. So here it says, please see the Air Force digital guide. And in here, they're talking to themselves, go look at it. And the digital guide is right here in this doc or this link. But because this is an internal document, this is an internal link that's locked down. You won't get access. But at least now I know there's an Air Force digital guide. I can go to the internet, search for it. I can go into the agency and ask them if there's an unclassed version of this that I can get. And I'll probably be able to get it from a business development standpoint. It might give me ideas of tasks to reaching out to the customer. And from a proposal writing standpoint, it'll give me language that I should be making sure I'm talking to when I'm writing a response that's back there. So I'm going to zoom this guy back out. And I just wanted to point out, like, as you go through, this is only 19 pages. I've told you, I've gone through documents that are 100 plus pages. And as you do, you begin to find them talking about things that are important, right? Right here, implementing DevSecOps. Here's the chief software officer. These are all business development tasks where I say, well, do I know who the new chief software officer is? Because in the Air Force, he quit a few months back. And so who is the new one? That's the new influencer. I should be paying attention to the new person. These kind of things are in these publicly available but internal documents. And I would encourage you to figure out from your primary agency, what are the best documents for you to start looking at, and begin with just kind of a recap here. Begin with the org chart. You want to make sure you download that and understand which part of the organization you really want to go into. And then definitely find any kind of briefing documents, strategic plans that are designed primarily to inform industry. And then the last one is look for some internal documents that relate to what your service or products are. And you can learn a lot more as you move forward on business development. And all of it was through this, just me searching on Google. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I hope that all made sense. I know it's a fire hose. If you found value in it, definitely give it a thumbs up. I'm looking at here to see, sorry, Josh, I got to figure that one out. So the screen went black again. I'm looking to see if there's any questions. I'm in the process of hiring a few interns, so this is great feedback. Please share more about how you train them to be successful. Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me. Is that Stacy? Reach out to me through direct message and I can talk to you about it. Sorry about the black screen. I'm seeing your comments and seeing it's in there. That's just a challenge. By the way, if you'd like me to actually do a webinar that's out of LinkedIn Live that you think this might be valuable enough to you and your peers around the industry, let me know. I'd be happy to put it together because I love talking about business development as a process and how if you do the right research, it will lead to you finding the right people that you can build relationships with. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here, but I wanted to remind you that visit the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. You can find our free downloadable ebooks or directories out there, including my favorite, which is the Small Business Specialist Directory. That one has over 1,000 names and numbers and email addresses of people you can reach out to, begin to develop relationships with. And if you'd like to learn more about developing or starting and building relationships, I've got another webinar kicking up that is on that topic. You can learn more at govconchamber.com. So definitely go out there and visit that. Okay, Nancy, I'll look at a webinar focus on that. Hey, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'm Neil McDonnell telling you, I'll see you next time.